Google Glass, one of the most innovative products ever created, or one of the biggest wastes of time ever made? Well, that's debatable. But what isn't up for debate is that Google Glass was one of the most hyped products ever created. Back in May 2013, Google unveiled their brand new project called Google Glass. It looked straight out of science fiction and seemed like a dream come true. With just a simple voice command, you could use your phone hands-free, see turn-by-turn directions right in your view, take photos and videos hands-free, and so much more. Hands down, one of the coolest bits of tech ever seen. But despite all this hype, today you can't even buy Google Glass anymore. So why did this amazing piece of technology fail so fast? Well, it actually wasn't that great. While the concept was incredible, the execution wasn't really there yet. For example, the Glass only had around 6 hours of battery life, which wasn't really enough to make it through an entire day. Apps were also extremely limited, especially for something that was supposed to be a fully connected device. And perhaps the biggest issue was the reliance on voice commands. Yes, it was cool that you could control everything with your voice, but the commands were often triggered by accident and didn't work half the time anyway. But these technical limitations wouldn't have been such a big problem if the marketing hadn't completely failed to. See, when Google Glass first launched in 2013, it was only available to selected Glass explorers who were willing to pay $1,500 for the privilege. This created an air of exclusivity and hype around the product. Everyone wanted to get their hands on it, and everyone wanted to know what it was like. The media loved it. Tech blogs went crazy over it, and all of this publicity would have made any company feel like a winner. But this is where Google made their first big mistake. You see, while everyone was congratulating themselves on the amazing launch of Google Glass, regular people saw it as nothing more than a huge middle finger to humanity. They looked ridiculous, especially when you considered that they cost $1,500. And this was before they even went on sale to the general public. But the worst part about Google Glass wasn't their looks. No, it was what they represented. Google Glass made everyone around them feel uncomfortable, because you never knew whether or not you were being recorded. And don't get me started on the fact that anyone who bought them could now easily do things like look up someone's skirt. As you can imagine, people weren't too happy about this, which led to some very unpleasant terms like glasshole, which described people who were obnoxious and rude while wearing them. And then there was the whole issue of privacy. Not only were other people uncomfortable being around Google Glass, but even the people wearing them felt uncomfortable knowing that every single thing they said was being recorded and sent directly to Google servers. But putting aside the social issues, people still didn't understand what Google Glass was actually for. Was it a phone? Was it a camera? Was it a computer? No, it was none of these things. It was a lifestyle that regular people couldn't afford and didn't want anyway. In the end, Google tried to market it as a lifestyle product rather than a technological one. This was by far their biggest mistake. Instead of targeting professionals, athletes, or maybe even soldiers, Google targeted no one. They just hoped that their device would sell well to anyone and everyone. But this was never going to happen. By late 2014, it was clear that the consumer version of Google Glass was going nowhere. So Google quietly discontinued it without making much of an announcement at all. But Google Glass wasn't done yet. In 2017, they relaunched it as the Glass Enterprise Edition. Unlike its predecessor, this version was actually useful. It found niche success in industries like manufacturing and healthcare, allowing workers to keep their hands free while accessing computers and other tools. So while Google Glass failed as a consumer product, it's still very much alive and well as an enterprise product. Today, Google Glass is mostly seen as a failure, and rightfully so. Despite all the hype and all the money Google threw at it, they still weren't able to make it into the hands of regular people. But it's not all bad. It did pave the way for several new AR and smart glasses companies, many of which are much more successful than Google is today. And perhaps the biggest lesson learned is that no matter how much money or resources you have, timing and public acceptance is just as important as innovation. This is the host. And if you want to learn how I make videos like these, let me know by tapping the link in the comments.